to Playback. My name is Nate.
My name is Brandon.
Today on the show, we have, I'm just going to be honest, our favorite guest, Brian Wallace on the show.
Thank you.
Yes,
This is my favorite show.
Yeah. Loosely third member of the band, of Black Market Dub, our band. And today we're doing the second annual Reggae Summer.
Yes.
It's the start of Reggae Summer.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Today we have Brian on the show to kind of be the bridge the companion albums that we're talking about. Last year's first Reggae Summer episode was Bob Marley's Exodus. We had Brian on for that. And today, Brandon picked Peter Tosh's Legalize It.
Yes.
So, Brandon, what is Peter Tosh's Legalize It, and why did you pick it?
Yeah, so we did 6 albums for Reggae Summer last year, and we didn't even scratch the surface, you know. It's already like weird enough that, you know, we're a reggae band. We have this like whole reggae dub specifically channel, and we spend so much of the year just talking about other albums and other music that has nothing to do with reggae and what we do.
The Shags.
So it's the Shags and Oasis and whatnot. But we really, really want to take this. We feel this responsibility to educate the peoples.
It's true. It's true. And that's why I feel like it's important for us to bring Brian on to Reggae Summer, because Brian is the one who educated us on all this reggae. He is yes. Listener, he is your the grandfather of your reggae education, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to start off year 2, I don't know. I mean, Nate, you and I, we already know all the 6 albums that we're doing this year, and it really doesn't read like a year 2 list. It's just like more of what should have been in year 1.
Totally.
Just could have easily have been in year 1. So
it's like 1A and 1B.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I mean, of the great artists that we did not talk about in year 1, you know, we talked about Bob Marley, we talked about Gregory Isaacs, and other people who I can't think of off the top of my head right now. But we didn't talk about Peter Tosh, right? Many would consider him to be number 2.
Sure.
You know, who Bob Marley is the biggest, greatest, most high-profile reggae artist of all time, who's number 2.
I think the whole slate of records we're doing this summer, you could argue these are artists that are probably considered number 2s, but that could easily be number 1. Like in another universe, like Peter Tosh is, you know, the same stature as Bob Marley and
exactly.
Like in my opinion, like probably should be. Like he's so like my thing like listening to this week was just like Peter Tosh, like everyone kind of treats Bob Marley like he's like the chill, like super chill guy. You know, has like that kind of mellow kind of vibe about him. I get the sense that Bob Marley was probably, and I don't know this, but this is just what I'm inferring, probably more of like the James Brown type of like, you play my music like exactly. So Peter Tosh has the kind of more militant, you know, hard edge reputation, but he actually seems like the more chill guy to be around and hang out. Like he's the one I would want to like hang out with. Bob Marley would be very intimidating and probably weird to be around, I feel like, as like a normal person. But Peter Tosh, his music, he like everything about him, I think, just is like very approachable and I don't know, less like exacting and perfection than Bob Marley, especially on this album, which I really love.
This record sounds like a jam.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
been perfected. Yeah,
exactly. It's loose, but it sounds great. It's like the same band as on Marley's solo stuff. It's like it is that same group of people who played on all the post Wailers Marley stuff, but it's more loose and chill and
I mean, when you look at the lineup of who played on this record, it's basically exactly the Wailers minus Bob Marley.
Right, exactly. Even some of the I3s are on this, which is nuts. Like
Yeah, Rita, Marley, and Judy Mowatt both sing on it. Even Bunny Wailer's on it. It's like
It's the whole gang.
It's the whole band except for Bob Marley. It's also worth noting this is Peter Tosh's first solo album, right? So, for people who don't know, Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer and Bob Marley were the Wailers, right? So for a lot of the part of Bob Marley's career that is really well known as being part of Bob Marley's whole body of work, a lot of that part of time, it actually was the three of them together as a group. And kind of the second half was just Bob and his band without the other two guys. But right here, 1976, this is when did Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer both leave the Wailers at the same time?
So Bunny left immediately when Chris Blackwell boned them on the tour money, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Tosh left shortly after, but I think was kind of like, well, but it's still good. And then
That's when Tosh started calling him Chris Whitewurst.
Whitewurst, yeah,
Which is so good.
which I think is a really great title for that guy. For as much as he did, he fucking boned these guys so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I think he was like directly standing in the way of this album coming out the way that Peter Tosh wanted it to come out. Like he stood in the way of the album cover, which is iconic. He didn't want Tosh to be like standing in the big weed field. He didn't like that. And then I think he even like he like sat on a lot of this stuff. Like he was like a direct impediment to like Tosh like doing this even.
Yeah. It's kind of a similar thing to how, well, I mean, you know, you could argue that Bunny is more the George Harrison of the Wailers, but this album feels sort of similar to like All Things Must Pass, you know, where like finally this songwriter who the management had been kind of suppressing his material a bit, like, no, only a couple songs per album. This like finally let loose and just a album's worth of like masterpieces, you know.
Yeah, bangers.
Yeah. So, but you know, Peter Tosh would go on to have a pretty prolific solo career. Like he released many albums, and I mean they're pretty much all of them. You know, some people, I don't know, some people don't really like the production style of No Nuclear War. His last one's a bit more modern sounding, but you know, obviously opinions vary on all of them. But I think they're all good. And he would reclaim and reinvent a lot of the Wailer songs that were his songs, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think this one and Equal Rights are as good as any of the Marley stuff, I think. I love these two albums. Like, I reach for Legalize It and Equal Rights probably way more often than I reach for a Bob Marley album on the shelf.
Bob Marley album,
yeah. Like,
I mean, they definitely suffer less from the like overexposure that a lot of Bob's albums do. I mean,
and you know, the other thing about them is that like it's kind of like what we were talking about, the three of us last summer on the Exodus episode, which was how worldly Bob's music sounded in that like it encompassed like a lot of like English sounds, and like, you know, it's like he was bringing in this it was a really like wide berth, you know, that he had with his music. Peter Tosh's music, it does sound like more like really raw Jamaican to me. Like it sounds more like kind of rooted in Jamaica, and doesn't have that kind of English like feel to it that a lot of Marley stuff kind of has.
Well, especially Legalize It and Equal Rights, the two that you
that I
like and that a lot of people like too. You're not alone in that, because those are the two before he had both the outside pressure and his own intention to more internationalize his sound, right? Because after that point, starting with Bush Doctor, that's when
Mick and Keith
exactly he started collaborating with the Rolling Stones and was on their label and all that stuff, and so all of his whole camp, including him himself, you know, it's not something that he was pushing against, but like really wanted to, follow on that strategy that Bob Marley was doing of like intentionally making the music more accessible to people who aren't Jamaican.
Yeah.
And you can hear that in the, like, when I listen to Peter's music, it just has bell bottoms on. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that? There's a clip of, well, there's many clips of this, of actual reggae being played in an actual club, in the 70s, and everyone is super dressed up, in like the most unique clothes for the time. They're like right on the cut. They're like, hey, I'm gonna go get dressed up tonight. Let me just get the most bomb ass thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know? And that's who he's playing for.
Right.
And Marley was more like, I'm gonna do some of that, but I want to kind of just go more global, more universal.
Yeah.
And you can really tell the difference.
You're so right, man. It's like Marley was kind of just in his own universe. Like he just created his own universe where he was like the sole thing going on, and like the only benchmark that mattered to Marley was what maybe Marley did last time. He wasn't really like it didn't feel like he was competing with anybody else but himself, whereas Peter Tosh feels more like a member of the 70s, right? Like he's an artist that belongs in the conversation with his other contemporaries. And
another way in which this music is so much more of its time, so much more 70s, is that and you touched on this a bit, Nate, which is that in comparison to Bob Marley, Peter Tosh is way more true protest music.
Sure.
This is Bob Marley obviously, had a lot of political and protest elements into his music, but he possibly intentionally lacked specificity a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm.
It was more speaking to like the ethos and the philosophy of a particular political approach that he wanted to espouse. But Peter Tosh, on the other hand, is way more overt, way more specific, and
super specific.
Legalize It.
Yeah.
The song, the
There's
title, the photo, the cover.
It's no ambiguity.
Exactly. It's something that so clearly spoke to exactly what the government did not want.
Right. Versus One Love, which is like the most broad, universal.
The biggest demonstration, like real life illustration of this difference is the One Love Peace concert.
Right. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
The reason why it's famous is because that is where Bob Marley took the two opposing politicians and held their hands up together. That photo.
And what did Peter Tosh?
That's what Bob did. Peter Tosh, most people don't know this, was at that very same concert and just spent 30 plus minutes just fucking berating those both of them just to their faces, puffing ganja, blowing fucking smoke in their faces, doing something that the police really, really, really wanted to arrest him on the spot for if it wouldn't have caused a massive riot. Right,
and they did. They retaliated against him,
and they got revenge on him.
They beat his ass
and
for
almost
that.
killed him later. Yeah,
the worst.
Just came up to him on the street and
like dozens of like stitches and shit. Like they absolutely like beat the shit out
broken
of him for
bones.
that.
Yeah, he was at a recording studio and he rolls out of the recording studio and they were right there. It was like a trap.
Yeah. We could do a whole reggae summer of just all the amazing reggae artists that were like murdered, and he's another one where it's like anytime I hear stuff like that about the cops in Jamaica, I'm just like, I always, even if there's no evidence for it, I'm just like, man, it just feels like that the government or the police like killed him. That's what it feels like to me, but I don't know.
Well, that's one of the topics that we'll get.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk
about all that. Tosh's first album, Yeah, it's like I can hear and see like a lot of the seeds of the themes of his later career, like already in this album. Like it's interesting how he's doesn't really seem to me like an artist that that really needed a lot of time to like develop and see his themes coming out. Like it was kind of all there right from right from the beginning. And that might be because he already spent like his formative years in the Wailers before he got to this point, maybe. But the two main themes with him to me seem to be, so first of all, that accusational energy,
adversarial,
yeah, which is something that, look, they that's kind of a hallmark of reggae music in general. Is reggae is full of what I could call like indictment songs, that are essentially, it's like, let me tell you how you're living wrong. This song is about the mistake that you make in the way that you live your life, and you know, like there's a lot of this. A lot of them are biblical, and even Bob Marley does it. You know, like rat race and hypocrite and all kinds of stuff. But like, if you look at the lyrics of the song "Legalize It," he doesn't say we've got to legalize it. He says you've got to legalize it.
Yeah,
it's true.
You know, it's not a like everybody hold hands, hey now people now, hey everyone, you know, kumbaya, like if only weed were legal, everything would be great. No, he is, his whole ethos is he is completely cognizant that this is not like a we phenomenon.
Right.
This is not like, it is a select few certain goddamn individuals who are perpetrating.
Yeah.
And that is the situation.
And it's in the even in the lyrics of that song, it's like that is implicit because of, think of how he highlights that. He points out like ants love it, goats play with it.
Yes.
Like you've got to legalize it.
Politicians.
Yeah.
You have got to legalize it.
Yeah. It's like fundamental, or like it's elemental. It's like how can you not legalize this?
Yeah,
you know?
It's the absurdity of it.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't go to jail for a plant.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and as he used to say in his tirades that he would go on stage, which were long, and you know, it's like a staple of his show. You know, like it is legal according to God, according to Jah. You know, like Jah says I'm allowed to do this. It's you who feel that you want to beat me and throw me in jail for doing it. You know.
And it's also like legalize it. The overall concept, you know, like smoking while black, driving while black,
being a Rasta,
that whole thing. You know, that's the other umbrella of this whole argument too. You know, which is really, it's not in the song, but it's obvious what the context is.
Right. It's implicit based on the who's delivering the message, who's like a guy who's an open Rastafarian who's wanted, actively like wanted by the government. Like, I mean, that was one of his other albums. Wanted is a great album. And it's like literally like
Wanted, Dread, and Alive.
Yeah, he literally like, you know, like the government was constantly trying to shut him up and put him in jail. Like, I feel like it's a really crass comparison and maybe low-hanging fruit. There's a couple we can make in this episode. One is the musical one, and one is the philosophical one between Peter and Bob. And they're both super obvious, but I have to make them. And the musical one is obviously Tosh is the Lennon to Marley's McCartney, right? And then also philosophically, I've always seen the two of them as like MLK versus Malcolm X. That's how I've always kind of like whenever I try to like get across to people, like what was it about Tosh that was so that like rubbed you know, people of authority the wrong way, that Marley didn't, right? And it's like, well, compare them to how MLK and Malcolm X like operated, right? It's like, the government couldn't stand Malcolm X, and they tolerated, Martin Luther King. I would say, and it was kind of similar with those two as well.
Yeah, it's really weird how like Bob seems that it. Okay, Bob only seems kumbaya in comparison to Peter Tosh.
It's true.
If Peter Tosh wasn't there, Bob would seem very specific, very confrontational, and very direct in his rebellion.
He is in the same way that Martin Luther King is, right? They are revolutionaries.
Right.
Yeah, both Martin and Malcolm were rebels.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a different tact, different approach. Like Peter Tosh comes on stage with a AK-47 shaped guitar, and Bob Marley just plays a Les Paul. They're both guitars, but it's just their approach is very different,
And remember, on both, so the comparison with these guys too is that they both were, so both Bob Marley and Peter Tosh, and both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were able to get through the wall, the white supremacist wall, and get in. And it's sort of like, the bee that gets in your shirt, like the Babylon, the government system, whatever you want to call it, has to react to that, and just the hilarious ways in which they had to do it, and the tragic ways that they had to do it too.
Yeah,
they chose to do it, I should say.
They were the only white blood cells entering like an infection.
Yeah,
and the infection clamped down.
Yeah, and the other sort of theme that is throughout his songwriting that you can see on this album that I noticed too is there's sort of this like almost kind of like a paranoia or like, okay, hey, have you guys seen the movie The Room?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
Famous for being one of the worst movies ever made. So
of course.
The Room is insane because basically what the point of The Room is like, wow, I'm an amazing person who has never done anything wrong. And my reward for being so great to my friends and so loyal and so loving to everyone in my life is that they betray me.
Right.
Everybody betray me. I fed up with this world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a streak of that with Peter Tosh.
Okay.
And some of his lyrics are like, you just listen and you're like, dude, oh my God. Like this is like a peek too far into a guy's diary or something.
He does have like a real chip on his shoulder, like a grudge you can feel.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like big time.
Absolutely.
Well deserved.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Even like what's the one on here that is like super? It's like got to be about Marley is Brand New Secondhand. It's like clearly just like about Bob Marley.
Oh yeah,
like just like dude, you're trash. Like you suck.
There's a lot of them too. Like Why Must I Cry? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's lyrics like, making believe you love me only was my greatest sin.
Mm.
But I will never fall in love again because only my heart feels the pain.
Mm.
Like I am the one who made a mistake by loving you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you left, I'm the only one who got hurt. Like,
yeah.
And therefore never again.
Right.
And what's the other one about like, No Sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm in troubles, only me feel the pain. Not one good word of advice from any of my so-called friends.
But he's coming. I mean, think about what he's coming off of. It's like what we talked about with Whitewurst. It's like all the ways they were shafting him, and Marley getting put up on this pedestal and accepted by white culture, like around the world. It's like he was bitter. Like he was just bitter and pissed, and I think probably I think he took umbrage with the way that Marley chose to be a revolutionary in the same way that Malcolm X and MLK were just like Malcolm X just thought Martin Luther King was like he was like wasting his time. Like that's how he thought about it. You know what I mean? Like it's a waste of time to try to like appease these people. Like you're gonna get nowhere. They're gonna stab you in the back. Like you have to confront this like in a really adversarial way, and or you can't like change it from the inside, right? It's not how it works. I can see why he would be so pissed, because it's like the way Marley is choosing to change the world is, you know, something that Peter Tosh doesn't believe will work, right? And it's the version of revolution that is like taking off in popularity. And
a good metaphor for what this felt like would be the same metaphor for people that are fighting for a revolution in thought around climate change. Like, how do you go and tell somebody who doesn't believe that climate change is happening that it is? You know, like what was that? There was a film about this. Remember, it was The Sky is Falling or something. What was it?
An Inconvenient Truth.
That one, yeah.
That one,
yeah.
The Sky is Falling.
You remember that?
Yeah. No, not no, that's the Al Gore one. The one where the comet was coming or something.
Oh, the Netflix one. That's Don't Look Up.
The Flat Earth people?
Don't Look Up.
Don't Look Up.
Oh, okay, the movie. I thought you meant the Flat Earth documentary, which is amazing.
No. It is.
Yeah.
That is a really good one. Yeah, but all of that stuff, right? Like we watched that because we're interested in that subject, because, you know, can't have reggae on a burning planet.
It's true.
And then, you know, but you're, again, up against this thing. You're up against this white supremacy issue. You're up against this block of, no, we're doing this because we're making a lot of money. We're greedy and we need this done. And we just need to put more plastic in the ocean and, just pollute our world. Let's just, you know, let's do that. And it's hard to break through that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. What's the approach? And the big tragedy then between those two approaches, and especially when the champion of each approach is our friends, is that from the perspective of each one, it really looks like the other approach is making the situation worse. You know,
right?
Yeah,
that's exactly kind of what I was getting at. Is like, from Peter's perspective, I would assume that he looked at what Marley was doing in the world and was like, this is actually counterproductive.
It's exactly, and vice versa, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right? Like people who believe in nonviolent approaches, you know, I definitely know, but see people who, from their perspective, someone like Peter Tosh, someone like Malcolm X, and taking that approach, it seems like it's exacerbating the problem. It's keeping the problem alive. It's making it worse.
Yeah.
So it's a very Shakespearean thing. Where
but from the other angle, it's like what Malcolm X would say is like, you know, if someone was like beating you over the head with a club and you fought back, is that like,
is that wrong?
Is that wrong? Yeah, like I don't think so. You know, but
and then what that highlights is, you know, they break up. Well, they don't break up, but they stop talking to each other and all that stuff due to spiritual reasons. And so that makes sense, right? Because it's like, oh, yeah, we're not
on the
seeing
same
through the
page.
same lens here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, these are the types of dudes who their politics are given by their spirituality. You know, these are people who vote from their faith, you know, like whose beliefs about what people in the government should be doing is based on their interpretation of the Bible, basically. You know, these are highly religious, highly faithful people. And so a difference in worldview is going to come down to a difference in your understanding of what it is that you're reading when you read the Bible for these guys. You know,
I think you just nailed, Brandon, what like that should get us into like a more specific topic we should get into, which was their politics is derived from their religion, which I think is the best summation of what Legalize It is. Right?
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
politics derived
That's
from
right.
this particular religion. And in this particular Rastafarian religion, ganja, weed, herb is like a sacramental, holy thing that they eat or not eat, that they ingest and they smoke. They probably do eat it too. I do.
Yeah, it's a pretty
and-
popular way of administering it these days.
Yeah, and so that led directly into the political statement that is legalize it, and really like kicked off a whole movement like that is pretty much never stopped. I guess kind of like you pointed out in the last episode, it's definitely taken on a different tenor these days, especially here in California now that it's essentially legalized.
It has been legalized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it. I mean, in the words of Peter Tosh, it is a sacrament, not a sacrilege, right? So, and what you were talking about, Brian, like the kind of the meta meaning of, or the more three-dimensional meaning of legalize it. It's not simply legalize the plant. It's not simply legalize the practice of smoking it. It's like legalize me. Legalize my way of life, legalize my right to be myself, and to believe what I believe, because ganja, as they call it, it's an aspect of the Rasta spirituality, their state of religious meditation, which is intrinsic to their faith. It's not like it's not removable, and they have the belief that it is literally a God-given right to have it and to use it, and to not be able to use it is unnatural. And also too, I think that a really important aspect of this whole topic that gets overlooked, particularly by us in the US, I definitely know, is that this situation that is most famously sung about by Tosh and also by other Jamaican artists, like this situation that they're singing about, it is a very like Jamaica specific situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like Peter Tosh used to talk about, in his indictment of the Jamaican police and Jamaican government and their refusal to legalize marijuana and their insistence on persecuting it, he used to use the lax and permissive state of the United States police about weed in comparison to point out how aggro the Jamaican police are about it. He used to say, like, I can walk around New York City and like be smoking a spliff next to a cop and he just smiles at me.
How ironic is that as an American to think about it that way? That's how it was perceived here, when we have always perceived it as this like insane draconian, like 1984 never smoke weed.
That's right. College kids in America would normally listen to Legalize It and go like, hey, yeah, exactly, man.
Totally.
Dude, this guy gets it. He knows how I feel. But like, he is, and again, the other artists too, not just him. He's just the most overt about it. They're singing about a very specific and like highly violent situation against Rastas.
Right.
In Jamaica that we don't have a comparison for.
Yeah.
We don't have an analog for it.
We do now with ice for sure.
That's true.
Yeah. It's like that. Right. So imagine that the criteria for ICE coming after you is that, that you...
Do you smoke weed?
Do you smoke weed or something? Right. Yeah. So in this case, it's like being brown. So imagine someone released an album saying like, aren't I allowed to be brown? Like you should legalize me,
Right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, to go back to understand Jamaica, like think of the Jamaican police now as a more fit, better trained ICE.
Right.
that has actual, like
that had like apartheid aspirations too.
yes,
like
yes,
that
they
killed
wanted
more
to be
people.
fascist.
Yeah, they
Well, ICE
wanted to
does,
be
yeah.
like South
Yeah,
Africa.
ICE kills people too, but
Yeah,
but the Jamaican police in the 70s were killing more.
yeah, yeah. They wanted to. I feel like they were using like South Africa as like a template, that they were trying to
Yes.
follow.
Yes.
Which is ironic too, because the government who was perpetrating this was a far, well, I don't know about the word far, but definitely a heavily left-wing government.
It doesn't matter. Orders are orders. Like, go kill them. Like
Yeah.
that. Like coming from either side, it doesn't matter.
The Overton window was pushed so far to the right in Jamaica. The overall political climate in Jamaica was so far right wing that a left wing government was still
I see.
participating in essentially fascism and apartheid. Right, that's how far right we are.
Yeah.
Is the left in Jamaica at the time was still, at the very least, like a center right government on the political spectrum.
Yeah. The conversation about weed and its legality, it's just not the same as it is in America.
And it's interesting how you've already started kind of bringing it up. It's just interesting how we in America have metabolized this message and been like, yeah, like he's talking about us. Like it's us. We're the oppressed. Like me in my dorm with my bong. I'm the oppressed one.
Yeah. Look, and don't get me wrong. Okay, I know this firsthand. So like I was a stoner in
Sure.
California when weed was illegal.
Sure.
It's not now, but back then it was. And
I don't even think young people now, I feel so old saying this, but like young people now can't even imagine what it was like. Like going out in the middle of the night, meeting up with a stranger in his car, buying a bag of weed. You don't know if it's like going to be fucking Parmesan or something, or sorry, oregano or something, or parsley. You don't know. And it's sketchy, and you could get in trouble, and you could get arrested.
There were very serious consequences.
Now it's you go to the Apple store, you go to like the Mac store. It's like picking out an iPod, when you go buy weed now. It's like totally different.
Yeah, we did still have to have our head on a swivel for police. And I mean, yeah, man, like we could have been like kicked out of college if we got busted during that time. Like it was a severe potential consequence. And me and my friends almost did get busted. We like literally were running from the cops.
Yeah.
On 2 occasions, narrowly escaped. And if I had got caught, it would have been like life-changing consequences, Mm-hmm. However, it still is like the problem of a rich kid to have, Mm-hmm. And that California had at that time, and still does, has such a like deep and specific weed culture. But, and again, I know firsthand, like there's no spirituality in that culture. There's only 2 things. One is the pursuit of a physical sensation, just for its own sake. And the other is like a self-medication of like anxieties or sadness that you may feel, or depression or something, something going on with you that you are.
Or it's like a party. It's like a party thing.
Medicating. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Which can fall into either one of those or both of those things. Just simply it feels good and I like it and I enjoy it, or the placating of something that I'm feeling. Right. And it works. And also too, just like with the dealers and just everybody who's like more into it than you are, like there's just this strange like vibe of just like bravado, or this like weird like aggressive energy that's like underneath it, kind of.
Bro, it's broy.
It's super broy.
It's very broy.
And it's all because it's a culture of avoidance. It's a like like American weed reggae songs and like modern popular American reggae, it's just like, hey man, no negative vibes. It's all about like stress-free lifestyle and stuff. But the approach to it is like, it's an approach of avoidance. It's like I don't like what I feel, so I'm just gonna say, hey, positive instead. And all of us together at this festival, all of us together at this show, let's just all agree to avoid it. Let's just all agree to ignore it. And we'll all just say, hey, good vibes instead. Good vibes instead.
Yeah.
Okay. And that'll save us and we'll be fine.
It's funny because it's like the tenor of weed culture in the United States. It's like you can see that there's like, they're trying to treat it adjacently to like having a beer or something, and all the cultural associations we have with having a beer. Like having a beer, it's like cowboys and NASCAR and like whatever, and then like having some wine, it's like chill and relaxed and like
it's
European and it's wine moms and this, and then weed. The weed version of just like of that is this like party, chill, relaxed, avoidance, beach, like whatever. But it's
steel drums.
Steel drums.
Yeah.
See?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's like the way our culture metabolizes this stuff. When we regurgitate it, it's the most like tame, non-confrontational. Like get your wristband and go to the line where you can get your dosed brownie or whatever gummy, and it's just like, it's so far removed from like what that was all birthed from, was a guy who sang Legalize It for like extremely political and religious with extremely political and religious motivations. And I really, it makes me wonder, had Peter Tosh lived to see essentially the movement that he birthed, like, would he see?
I would love to see what he would say about these guys, dude.
Like, would he go to like,
oh my God,
would he go to like a Reggae on the River and be like, I'm satisfied with how his message became filtered through the grapevine? Like,
I don't want to be cynical, but you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the fucking villain, man. Who knows?
Yeah,
he might be out there just dancing around with the rest of them, man. Who knows?
True.
Doesn't seem like it. But then again, he was such an intense dude that he lived in a way that he would get himself involved in something that would get him killed.
He would get into he would get into something else. He would still be pissed off,
right?
Yeah,
but I feel like he would
have taken up the banner of something else that would have pissed those people off.
Yeah.
He would have gotten himself killed some other way. Like,
right? Yeah.
And if you look at what they're doing, the Wailers are still on tour. Al Anderson's still doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what is their summer tour this summer, this actual summer, 2026, is Reggae Against Racism.
He'd be doing something like
he would be on that front. He'd be carrying that flag.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Because that's what those guys are doing.
This was just like the first banner, the first cause he took up, and just the one that I think is pinned to him most prominently. But like, yeah, he was like super outspoken about everything. Like he was
the first guy to sing about apartheid.
Totally.
Nobody else would touch that. They're just like, no, that's too crazy.
And he did it by saying the word apartheid in the lyrics, right? Not singing about it. And so that to me, that's the main dichotomy between our weed culture here and the approach of all the artists and everything and the way that they do it. And like what sort of reveals the difference is that original Rasta music, the original approach of reggae is to like alleviate your suffering by addressing it, by actually singing about it and going toward it, and naming
music.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you say sufferers music?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And holding the oppressors accountable, right? Name and shame. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and or at the very least, singing about hunger in the way that like Mighty Diamonds or Wailing Souls or something. You know what I mean? Like even if they're not gonna go after a perpetrator, at least like just being real about the suffering situation in some way, right? Whereas this California style is the method of alleviation is like
getting fucked up,
avoidance and pretending that it doesn't exist. It seems very unhealthy.
It's keg stands and bong loads, dude.
It's just yeah. It's like at best it's shallow.
Yeah.
But at worst it's like offending something that is sacred.
And I think okay, to play devil's advocate, it also could be seen as like harmless too.
Yeah.
You
could take that view. It's like, hey, what's the big deal? It's just music,
right?
Whatever.
But it's just the fact
I can
that
see,
it all came from this place is the part that makes it like kind of offensive sometimes.
It doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. If you turn your brain off and don't think about it, it's harmless, really, but if you do think about it, which you should,
thinking about stuff is good.
Thinking about stuff is good. Then you should put it in another context, and you should think twice, I think.
And by the way, my last point on that, like, okay, some reggae is vulnerable and expressing real turmoil, and some is false and performative. And that is the reason why Lee Scratch Perry burned down the Black Ark. Okay?
Yeah, that is true.
This is the same phenomenon that caused him to set his studio on fire. Right. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Just going to leave that there.
Do we want to talk at all about his murder before we go on to production stuff? That's the only other thing I would love to talk about if you guys have any insight on it, because I know he was like targeted, and it sounds like from what I read they like tortured him and then shot him, and a few others died as well. And like not quite.
Story.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Not true.
What have you guys heard? Because I read crazy shit about this.
So
and Santa Davis was there.
Yeah,
right?
Santa was there. Right?
Yeah.
And have you heard the story from Santa?
Yeah, Brandon and I have worked with Santa.
Yeah,
and he doesn't like to talk about it, but he will if asked.
Right.
So yeah, they were hanging out at Peter's house. There was a party, and people were sort of coming in. There was some late people that came late, and then this guy that Peter was helping out, who had gotten out of jail and had come to Peter. It's like, hey, me before jail. Can you help me? And he would give him like some money or whatever.
He bought him a bed.
Yeah, got him a bed and all that stuff. Got let in by the people that had just arrived at the party. And so he comes up, demands money. Peter just gotten off tour. He's like, I don't really have any money on me. Like, the check hasn't come yet. And he goes to, physically assault him, and Peter fights back. Gunshots go off. Peter is immediately, some of the other party people that were there were immediately killed. There was a DJ that was there.
Right.
That was killed. Everybody else got wounded. Peter got wounded, died in the hospital later. But it was pretty quick, and there was no torturing or
I don't know where anything was going on.
Yeah. There was a machete involved. They were going to cut his head off.
Maybe that's what that's what I read.
This guy had
something like
accomplices, didn't he?
Yeah, there was two guys.
Yeah. Okay. One accomplice. Yeah. So, because Peter Tosh is sort of like in the Exodus discussion that we had last year. We touched on this aspect of Bob Marley where he was really like, brought the wealth back to the community, right?
Right. This was like a thing.
Yeah. Spread the money around, spread the wealth around, and like kind of helped lift up other people.
and
Peter
these guys
Tosh.
still lived in like the same neighborhoods oftentimes, like where they grew up. Like they they were still around. They just had a bunch of money now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they still lived in Kingston, and so Peter Tosh did a similar type of thing. Like there'd be all kinds of people, and you'd come by and make a request, and he'll help you out. Like the whole bed thing with the guy who's, I can't remember the name of the guy.
Oh yeah, what's
who
his
killed
name?
him.
With an L.
Dennis Lepo Laban. That's what I have. I don't know.
Life in prison.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he got out of jail, went to go ask for any way that Tosh and his family could help out, and Tosh's wife or girlfriend, I think wife, said like, yeah, we have this extra bed that like we're not using, you can have it. And Peter Tosh was like, hang on, don't give him that bed, I'll just buy you a brand new one. Stuff like that, right? So this is like kind of the type of thing that he would do. And then I guess at some point Lepo came by the house again when Peter was off on tour and asked the wife for some money. And I think she said no. And that really upset him. And then he came back and confronted Peter Tosh when he came back from tour of like, hey man, I came by and asked her for money and she wouldn't give it to me. What do you have to say? And Peter Tosh like agreed with her. Or I think it was like, hey man, like that's a lot that you're asking for. That's too much. And that pissed him off even more. And he's like, oh, I see how it is. Okay, Peter. Oh yeah, all right. So you're gonna be like that, are you? And then he like stormed off and like was telling people around town how he's like, I'm gonna fix him. You'll see. And then that's what happened. He showed up at the party and it went that way.
Wow.
So, and it's really crazy too, because, I was giving Peter Tosh shit earlier for his lyrics about like, watch out for your friends and shit. And, like there's his song, I can't remember what album it's on, MAGA Dog.
He was writing his own epitaph, dude. Like,
yeah. It's like,
well, think about it. I mean, he's like immersed in it, right? This is like, this is just what happens when you're in this situation. You're in this oppressed situation where people are actively being oppressed to be hungry,
desperate.
Yeah. That everyone, this was a time when, all the jobs in Jamaica that paid well were done by white people.
Right.
Like that was the ceiling, and it wasn't even a glass ceiling. It was just like a wall.
It's a ceiling.
It's probably still the truth.
Yeah. Like there are no black DJs. There's no black anything. Like, yeah. The best jobs you could get was being the cops.
Right.
The police, right. Joining the militarized police.
Yeah. Now it's like the best job you could get is like working on like a resort or something.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
Like,
is this
intercepting white American tourists and shit.
Well, I guess the tourism industry would have been a thing because you can see in Rockers how they play at the hotel, but you also see in Rockers how the people who own the hotels are white, and everyone who's black is either the front desk or the maid or
Wait
the
staff or something,
or the entertainment. The musicians coming in, right? So yeah, it's an apartheid situation.
This has been a heavy episode. I don't know where I got the torture. I read an article that like said something about fucking torture, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, wow.
Well, he did get tortured. He got tortured when he was beat up by the cops, and actually his skull. They cracked his skull, and his brain came out of his skull.
Okay, wow.
And that's why that torture really changed his life as far as like having migraines from that point on until he died. And that's why the output was lower after that beating, because he just couldn't like wake up in the morning and like not have a migraine. So
Jesus.
So and that's when and then what medicine do you have for migraines in the 70s? other than just
Ganja.
smoking copious amounts of weed.
Totally.
Which
Yeah.
is just like, then you're like,
Out of it.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, maybe what I read was conflating those two things. I think that's what happened.
It's probably, you probably got him mixed
Yeah,
up. But
yeah.
yeah, that's what's up.
wild.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Santa Davis will show you a picture of his x-ray on his phone
Right.
with the bullet that's still in his body from that.
Whoa.
They never took it out.
Where did he get shot?
It's like right kind of close to his spine. It's just like kind of pointing right there.
Wow. Wow.
Good times. You know what a California reggae band would have to say about all that, right? Is, hey man, you know what? Good vibes.
Yeah,
okay?
that's true.
Yeah.
Look, you guys, I
Or
can't
Brandon.
continue having this conversation with you because it's just too much
'Cause the
negativity
vibes
in my
are too
life.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
This is
just
bringing
silence. Could be just silence too, which is the most disappointing thing. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Who's that?
I'm sorry your brain's leaking out because you're black or whatever. I don't know.
You want to dab?
Yeah, you want to dab? She's too harsh, though. You're really harshing my mellow,
Here,
unfortunately, Peter.
take this knife hit, bro.
Well, let's talk about the production, the performances, the production, the actual musicianship, the musicality of Legalize It. Let's talk about Legalize It, the album itself, and what we think about it. For me, I think this album is, it's listening to it, it's so clear why the Rolling Stones, Mick and Keith, were like, hey, who's that? Like, it's so there's like a really awesome, like, kind of bluesy thing, and I think that's kind of just inherent to the way Tosh plays as well.
And Al Anderson.
And Al Anderson, exactly, yeah. Like, yeah, they both kind of have a really kind of bluesy take to their guitar playing style. That, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all while I was listening to this that, like, oh man, like, he would just put himself on the map for somebody like, you know, Mick Jagger.
Also, if you listen to Rolling Stones records and you put it up against this one, they suck.
I agree. You're right. Especially this period of Rolling Stones. Especially this period of Rolling Stones. It's like they're
so
not
funny.
as
And
good.
then they're 80 and they still suck. They actually never got better. I always say that. I always point that out.
It's true. They stopped progressing as musicians in like 1966.
Yeah.
I think it's because when Brian Jones was the only guy who was like doing anything like actually interesting musically, and then he died.
And then they're just like,
They're just like, oh, well,
good times.
145.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Tosh musically absolutely was like, you know, giving every reason for the Rolling Stones to want to sign him and work with him. But the story that I heard is what really sealed the deal was that basically that Mick Jagger was in attendance at the One Love Peace concert.
Oh shit! Wow.
And he saw Peter Tosh just going off on his tirade against the politicians, and just like saw the badassness of what he did with his time on the stage there, and he was just sitting there and he's like, I need to sign that guy.
Yeah.
Who is that? That guy is fucking awesome. Who is that?
You know, and I hate, I keep making all these low hanging fruit metaphors in this episode, but like, yeah, Tosh is more Rolling Stones than he is like Beatles. You know what I mean? Like, he is that more like fuck you kind
Bob
of
is Beatles.
Yeah, Tosh is Stones.
Rolling Stones.
Yeah. Agree.
big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Looser, easier, more like nonchalant, like not trying as hard while being like effortlessly as good as the guys that are trying as hard as they can. You know.
Yeah. So we mentioned before that the band that's on this album is
essentially the Wailers band.
It's essentially the Wailers minus Bob.
Yeah, it's the post breakup Wailers that played on all the Marley records.
Although there is a few tracks which have an alternate drum and bass situation. I don't know which songs it is.
Yeah.
Because it looks like this album was recorded across 2 sessions, right? One of which at Treasure Isle and the other at Randy's. 2 of the great and most
legendary,
important
coolest
recording
studios ever
in Kingston. And
so I have a question because on YouTube there's multiple versions of this, and there's one that came out in 2011 that has like all the demos.
So
yes,
good.
And something that says Jamaican mix on them.
Jamaican
Have
mix,
you checked those out? So,
yes,
I did.
I listened to all this for this.
So do we know anything about that?
I guess so it was mixed at CBS in New York, right? So I have a feeling this was like when Chris Whitehurst, Blackwell, and it became a thing, like this is coming out. They took what was recorded in Jamaica and they did a huge polish of it in New York, and they mixed the whole thing in New York. I don't know much about the demos, but the Jamaican mix, I think it must have just been like what they first submitted, I would think, or something,
or the original pressings of it that were sold in Jamaica.
Probably the Jamaican pressings,
and then the mixes that we are familiar with were the ones mixed in New York for international sale.
Yeah,
I would guess.
It's wild because I listened to both and the demos. The demos are awesome. The demos are so cool. They sound like super murky, like Lee Perry kind of vibes. It's really cool. But like listening to the CBS mixes, the New York versus the Jamaican mixes, it's crazy because there's stuff I love about both of them.
Yeah.
And there's stuff I don't like about both of them. But the Jamaican mixes are rad.
The other thing interesting about the demos is they're actual demos. Like you can tell, like there's less mics.
Mm-hmm.
There's more of a jam feeling. Like they're just kind of working stuff out. Like,
yeah.
Like they're really not. Like there's stuff missing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. There's stuff that's in there that's not in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's weird too. Like the CBS versus the Jamaican mixes too. It's like the Jamaican mixes, you can hear everything. Like you can hear every instrument. It's like really well articulated, and like things are like the official mixes or whatever that I think most people are probably more used to. It's like they really like murkied stuff up, and it's cool in a cool way. It's it's definitely like a choice, and it kind of adds to like the vibe of Legalize It. It makes it feel really like mystical and stuff in the way that the original Jamaican mixes like really don't. But if you're just trying to like hear what people are doing, like what people are playing and stuff, the Jamaican mixes are rad. It's all just like super unadulterated. Just there's no reverb, there's no like delays. There's only a little bit of like maybe like space echo on some stuff, but like it's really minimal.
It's way drier. I really loved. This was the first time that I ever heard the Jamaican mix, and I really loved it because I've always been curious about the details of what some people are playing, or even like lyrics that I could never really pick out fully because the international version, the known version, it has, sort of this wall of sound type.
It does
treatment to it. It sounds like it feels Specterized.
It is,
bit,
Well, because they brought in Al in New York because he was going to school there, right? He went to Berkeley with Pat Metheny. Yeah. They were like classmates.
Al Anderson went to Berkeley. I did not know that. That's so cool.
So they get this, Berkeley kid to come to New York and do this, put in more guitars.
Well, hadn't he already been playing in Bob Marley's band?
He'd been playing
this?
in the Wailers, but like that was the You know, he was like the young guy, you know.
Right. The young American guy.
Yeah.
Went to Berkeley same time as Pat Metheny and Al Di Meola, which is crazy. That's
Nuts. Can you imagine?
Ripper. No, I can't.
Oh,
Man.
I guess I can. I did go there,
Yeah,
so I
say,
can sort
Berkeley
of
used to put out some real top-notch
some
graduates.
rippers. Yes.
Back in the day.
back then, before they had AI songwriting class, which is what they do now.
they do.
Yep.
Are you effing me in the A right now?
That is a whole
Oh
other
my
topic.
God.
Dude,
Yeah.
my Berkeley group chat is just like, fuck Berkeley. Fuck Berkeley.
Yeah,
It's trash.
it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
Yeah, it's trash. I got in while it was still good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Good Lord.
Anyway.
All right.
Jesus.
Anyway, yeah, so it looks like the drum and bass for some of the songs is, Carly Barrett and Family Man Barrett, Bob Marley's guys, and then some of the other stuff. This is sort of interesting because this album in some ways is sort of like marks the beginning of the rise of Sly and Robbie, because Robbie Shakespeare was Family Man's understudy, sort of, or like his student, his protege, right? The young like teenager that Family Man would recommend to some sessions if he wasn't available or whatever. And so after this album, starting on Equal Rights, Peter Tosh's second album, that's when he puts together Sly on drums to play with Robbie Shakespeare, and they're on like that entire album.
Wow.
And that's the beginning of when those young guys start to really establish themselves and become who they would become, Sly and Robbie, playing for Peter Tosh, right?
Wow.
But this album
Yet another thing that like Peter Tosh was like a nucleus of, and like, can you imagine in those sessions, Peter Tosh looking at those two kids, and if he could see today that they are like the most prolific musicians of all time now, like it was like another thing he birthed, like crazy.
So this album,
the other crazy thing about this too is here comes Peter Tosh with the guitar that he makes himself.
Is that the AK-47 guitar? Is that what you're talking about? No, it's a different one?
A different one.
Okay.
It's a weird shaped one.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it. It looks like a UFO.
Oh, whoa.
It's like,
I'm not aware of this. This is wild.
He made it himself.
Whoa.
And it's perfect.
Wow.
It's the one that he's playing in the Capitol Records session.
Okay.
Where in '73 when the Wailers came to Capitol
Like
Records
stir it
there's
up?
videos of it. Yeah, exactly.
That stuff?
That it's the guitar that Peter's
that is a
playing
wild
there.
guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a horse. There's a
like,
horse.
It's like Brian May. Like Brian May made his own guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a horse mouth interview where he talks about seeing Peter Tosh for the first time come into Kingston busking with this weird ass guitar. And then he plays it and he's like, it's a perfect guitar. Like it's totally everything about it, like luthier style was really great. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he was a welder. He got to, and that's how he met Bob Marley. Is they were both welders.
A welder.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was good at like creating things with his
crafting
hands.
stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was any woodworking skills he learned that came along. Like, how do you just make a guitar? Like, it's so the angles and everything are so like you have to be so precise, like to have an actual playing guitar.
Yeah, this was materials that he found when he was living basically in the sticks in the country.
Wow.
It's just like
Yes. Yeah, he's another person in the tradition of Lee Perry and a lot of other really great figures of, this golden age of Jamaican music history of guys that came from the rest of the country who are not from Kingston.
Yeah.
Right?
They're borderline. If it wasn't for the fact that we have like television cameras and microphones from this time period, they would be like folk heroes, like folk legends. Like they were just birthed from the land as these like mystical.
grown in the cornfields of Westmoreland, Jamaica.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he came into Kingston as a teenager, right?
Yeah, teenager.
And like, is it true that he didn't even really have the intention of playing music to show up? He just kind of came like,
He was just like, I need to get out.
just to survive, just for work.
Well, because his parents kind of abandoned him.
Well,
yeah, like, you know, a lot of in that time period, like, what do you do? Like, you have a kid and you can't afford a kid, so they're just like, all right, you can walk, you can talk, get out of here.
The lineup here is not quite solidified into what would end up becoming his band, like his kind of his established backing band for a long period of time, but it's the beginnings of it, right? So this is the beginnings of him working with Robbie Shakespeare. And his backing band would be called Word, Sound, and Power. This is like one of my favorite things about Rasta culture. Word, Sound, and Power, just to reiterate again, it's like basically being in touch with the details of what you are actually speaking, what you are actually saying, and like being intentional about you know, the one example is saying that you're very livicated to something instead of saying that you're very dedicated to something.
Or if your name is Chris Blackwell and you suck, you might
not
call someone
black, well, white, worst. So I found this interview with Roger Steffens, great Roger Steffens, you know, journalist who and DJ, I think, who like, you know, knew these guys and spent a lot of time with them.
Well, he was Marley's manager at that point too.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So he had like a list of his favorite Toshisms, Tosh word, sound, and powerisms. So one is pertinent to what I was talking about before. Be careful of your friends. They will fry you in the end.
Oh.
Fry and friend. They will fry you in the end. He used to call his producer his reducer. He used to say that he would be playing in Follywood, Hell A, San Francisco.
Okay, that's cool.
And the United States of Asadica, because it's not Mary in America. It's very sad. So he would call it Asadica.
That's so good.
Those are great ones.
Oh my God.
I had not heard the America one.
That's
That's
so good.
Yeah.
And he said that
you know what though? I like his word, sound, and powerisms a little more than Lee Perry's. Lee Perry's can get a little off the edge and really hard to follow. But Tosh is very logical. Like it's
very logical. Yeah, he's a super razor sharp mind on this guy.
Yeah,
and he
stepping
used
razor.
Stepping razor. Yeah, better watch out. But yeah, Roger Steffens said that Peter Tosh said about himself that he was self-educated and that he didn't go to school and he didn't need school. And his reasoning for that is, again, based in word, sound, and power. He said, since education, the word education, comes from the Latin word educere, which means in Latin to bring out of someone, not to put in. Right? So to educate, the meaning of the word educate is not to put knowledge into someone, it's to bring knowledge out of someone since it's already in there. And he said that Tosh used to ask the questions, so then who taught the first teacher?
That's interesting. That's interesting.
You know? So he's like, I don't need no school.
That's interesting.
Can't blame the youth, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
All they're gonna do is teach you that the cow jumped over the moon and the dish ran away with the spoon, right?
Mm-hmm. I was about to make another crass metaphor, but you're making me rethink it. I was about to say Marley comes off as more of like a mystical philosophizer, whereas Tosh feels more like a professorial, right? But even what you just said right there was so philosophical that I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Tosh is absolutely so still rooted in the Bible, but it's good to me though, because I do feel that you know, in this day and age, there's so many people. So I, you know, just speaking from the point of view of an American in 2026, the world is full of people, right? The country is full of people right now giving being religious a really bad name. You know, a lot of like false Christians,
or their religion
clamoring
is,
to
their religion is something. It's like bunk science or something. You know,
Yeah,
like, that's like their religion basically.
just people who are not religious claiming so loudly to be religious, and you know, trying to leverage that and just really poisoning all the water for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Including poisoning the water for people who are not religious and poisoning the water for people who are religious too. That I feel that it's a point that gets lost where that really truly within the faithful people, there are both types. There are the Bob Marleys and there are the Peter Toshes. You know, I mean, so much of modern science was developed by Franciscan monks.
Yeah.
It comes from like these dudes who are members of different orders of the Catholic Church who they're literally scientists.
Right.
They used to be the home of science and education and research in the world in hundreds of years ago, you know? And I met people like this where it's like there's a very like intellectual, scientific way of investigating creation and like what is here, what is the nature of the way that things are, and it's just as valid to take that stance coming from a place of faith as from anywhere else. And I think that dichotomy between Bob and Peter Tosh really shows that. Bob is, you know, he feels it.
Yes.
He's vibes.
He feels it, and Tosh like knows it.
Tosh is a very intellectual dude.
Yeah.
And so rooted in the Bible, in Rastafari. Tosh was he was the one who introduced it to Bunny and Bob, wasn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
United States of America.
So good.
It's so good.
We should try to steer back to the production. How do you guys feel about how personally, if I had to like gun to my head make a call, I might actually kind of like the CBS New York version better because of all the stuff they introduce on it. That gives it that extra production sheen and flair, and it kind of reinforces the themes of the album in a really cool way from like a production standpoint. Like even on just like the track Legalize It, like the way they just slam the i3s through like the Mutron phaser. It's like they're actually doing kind of super Jamaican stuff. But it's being filtered through like the polish and the sheen of like a really nice like kind of New York production system, which I think is very cool.
I think as production that is accompanying great vocals, which is what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Long live the wah-wah.
Yeah.
And long live the clavinet.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And all that just to get it out of the way. Like, yeah, you got this part in here, but if you wah-wah it, like it's out of the way and this vocal can cut through and you can understand what's going on.
Yeah.
You know?
It
sounds super space aged and like,
it does. Yeah. Which
What's
is saying
more
a lot.
70s than clav and wah?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, he was a guy of his time. Like like he was making contemporary music. You know, Bob Marley. It's almost like he was trying to like reinvent the wheel, like invent a new kind of music or something. And it's like Tosh was like, "This is what's cool. Like, let's do it."
I'm glad that you brought up the wah guitar because that really on all this listen through. That really stood out to me as a very like if there is a hallmark of the Peter Tosh sound, it would be the wah skank guitar.
It's true.
Aside from his voice. We haven't even talked about how amazing Peter Tosh's voice is.
Yeah, I was just saying,
God.
like a feat in itself is the fact that he has such a low, deep voice. Like you were saying, Brian.
Like guy's enormous, right?
Yeah, it's a big dude.
Yeah, he has such a deep voice, and yet on this album it cuts through and like you can hear it, and it's like articulated, and like it's like a feat of mixing, in my opinion, that they were able to do that.
But the pairing of the clav and the wah on this makes total sense
Mm-hmm.
for this voice, this vocal style,
Mm-hmm.
even the rhythm of the words coming at you. Like it is really perfect. Yeah.
So I think that something that lends to that wah guitar, leaving space for the voice, and probably the reason why it's so ubiquitous across Peter Tosh's music specifically, as opposed to other artists, is because that wah skank is being performed by Peter Tosh.
That's true. He's like creating the space for his own vocal, like with his guitar. Yeah.
Like he and he brought that sound to the Wailers too, right? And like Can't Blame the Youth.
Yep.
That's Peter Tosh was playing that part. And I feel like he single-handedly gave all of us white people the impression that the correct way to play guitar in reggae is to play it with a wah pedal.
Yeah, to rock the wah back and forth while you skank.
Yes.
That's true.
Right?
That's so true, man.
Right? But like it's so interesting because when you really investigate most roots reggae, it's like, wait, hang on.
He was like the only guy
Where is
doing
it?
that. He's like the only guy.
It's very rare actually.
Yeah.
And he's
You know
sort
what?
of
It's
like
just the fame of that Stir It Up video, the 73 like Capitol video of Stir It Up. That's why that misconception is there. Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah, man. And it's the only other place where I really hear it a lot is there's a lot of Black Ark songs that have wah guitar, but it's normally performed differently. It's like
Right.
it's more sort of I don't know. And I don't know the guitar player who is there all the time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it was Peter Tosh because it's performed in such a different way anyway. But like those two, outside of those two places, it isn't like that. Like you know the real, not the real way, but the most common way is it's dry. You know, there's no that's what you hear on all those records. But so anyway, yeah, like the spaces. The rhythm of it is in conversation with the vocal part because the lead singer is the one who's putting all those little guitar embellishments in there.
Yeah, and it's just that Tosh is so good. Like he is such a good guitar player.
Yes.
He was
great.
for when I was a kid and I was first, getting into reggae. Tosh was like, oh my God, he was like the guy. Like he was like clearly the best in my opinion. Like his tone, like the way he played, like all that, like, and yeah, the wah guitar is irresistible for a white boy. It's just we're drawn to it like moths to a flame.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
It's the part of the Hendrix magic. you know?
Totally.
We love it.
Totally.
And
It's a bridge.
Yeah.
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 From a rock and roll listener to this, like
Exactly.
that's the bridge.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You make the mental leap of like Jimi Hendrix to reggae very easily through the wah pedal.
Yep.
That's true. And you bring up his voice too, and how low it is. It's really similar to in our last episode, Brian. We were talking about Beck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, haven't seen that one yet, but yeah.
And
Beck has a very similar voice to Tosh.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's low timbre, dark.
Yeah.
Kind of voice.
It's low, but it's bright.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, this is something that I struggle with, and many of us who have. So like, I'm basically around in the same vocal range as Beck and Peter Tosh. They're in the same, but it's a constant struggle.
Which is why I asked you to get put on that thing that most recent thing we did.
Yeah. the Smoke and Mirrors
Right.
Yes.
project. Yeah.
That was great.
There's a part that just goes down an octave and it just wasn't happening. I'm like, you got to just have Brandon double that thing.
Exactly.
Oh,
you need
okay, yeah.
someone who's got this particular timbre, and it's just a physiological thing, right?
Yeah.
But singers like Beck and Peter Tosh are so notable because they, I don't know how, but they do escape from this thing that we struggle with, which is that by our range being what it is, it makes your voice very dark. And it's challenging to sing in a way that makes your voice suitable to be the lead part, to be the front and center aspect of this song and to carry the song, because the things that our ears like to follow are very like bright, crispy, and detailed, and
It's wild because
not dark sounding things.
it's wild because I'm thinking about it and I'm like, I wonder how much of it is like studio technique as well. Like a really good engineer knowing going in, like, hey,
With this
like,
guy, very little of it.
This is how his voice
This
sounds,
is a
man.
magical.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
how he sounds. Like
Yeah.
there's
Because he has a deep voice, but the top end of his voice is very like crispy. Like you can hear the detail, the top end in his voice that is there, it is detailed. And
Exactly.
that's what makes, like what you're saying, that's what makes his voice not sound like dark, quote unquote, like you're saying.
exactly. Both Beck and Peter Tosh, it's deceptive how deep, how low of a note they're singing.
Right.
It doesn't
But that's
seem like
the
they're
only
singing
reason
that low of a note.
That's the only reason I bring up possible like studio stuff, because I'm trying to think of like how someone would approach that. Would be like, okay, we need to like pull that out of his voice or something. But I think you're probably right. He just is one of those guys who
this is how he performs
has a
because
great voice.
There's a video, it's on YouTube, of them rehearsing. I can't remember what song they're rehearsing, but it's around this time. It's probably in like 77 or something. And it's from the perspective of this camera that is just walking around the rehearsal space. And I believe the microphone that we're hearing is on the camera, because as he goes over here to these guys playing, you can hear them louder, and then you go over here and you hear them louder. And there's a point where the camera sort of gets up into Peter Tosh's face, and you're essentially just hearing him singing in the rehearsal space.
And he's cutting through.
And it sounds exactly the same. It sounds exactly like Peter Tosh. I think for this record, you just put a microphone in front of him, and
Probably,
that's it. You know?
Probably.
Like,
yeah.
He just sounds like that.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
No, I think you're right. And it's true. And it's like, not to single out your voice, but if we're comparing it, you're right. Like when I hear your voice
It's
recorded,
so
it
much
is
darker.
There's a almost not, and I love you and I'm not just trying to be mean or anything, but there can be like a pillow over it sometimes.
Exactly.
Like you gotta, it's hard to get that detail out of your voice. Whereas like, on somebody like him, like Tosh, it's like, that is not the problem. It sounds like,
Exactly. And so the impression that you get is it's essentially, it feels like he's singing much higher than he actually is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another thing that's kind of interesting. I got this new instrument that is in this low spectrum.
Whoa.
Did you get that in your Minecraft adventures?
Yeah, it looks like a Minecraft thing, but what this is it's a matrix of tubes. So this
like
is
the internet. It's a series of tubes.
It's a series of tubes.
Okay.
But you can see it's maybe 2 feet long, right? But
yeah.
A low instrument with a crispy top end.
Yeah. That's Peter
But it looks smaller than a flute.
It
is smaller than a flute.
But it's like a bass instrument.
Did you like 3D print that or something?
No, this dude Nicholas Brass made this. But
for our audio listeners, it looks like Brian is playing a series of puzzle pieces connected by a pipe.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. This thing
like
looks
Lego.
Yeah, it's ridiculously cool.
It is. It sounds awesome.
The reed is a
plastic glove?
Surgical glove that you cut
What?
and you put on here. And then so here's just the reed. Okay, and here's
Mhm.
the end.
Interesting.
So you get two different sounds and then in the middle.
Wow.
Okay,
You get that
like a
different. So
woody.
so you get
Yeah.
three different tones that
Yeah.
if you're here in the room with me, you'd all be mixing together.
Mixed.
But,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's amazing you just had that on standby because it's a perfectly illustrates what we're talking about, which is that is clearly like a low,
It's a low note.
It's a low note, but it has a
bright
really
timbre.
bright timbre to it. Yeah,
Yes.
that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and like you can dial in a certain sound on like a mini Moog, like a synth, and play notes that are very high, that have a very dark timbre.
Yeah, it's like the sympathetic frequencies of like the top end are like they're all there. They're all crispy. You can hear it.
that's an amazing segue to the synths on this record too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love which maybe you guys know, is it I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it. Is it Let Jah Be Praised, where he has they use the synths to do like it's like thunder and lightning and earthquakes and
Yes, I want to talk about this.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, let's do it.
Yeah. So, it's the 70s, and somebody in New York or Jamaica is like, we need some sound effects, lightning and thunder specifically. Do you drag the Studer or the Nagra out to just put it on, get an umbrella? Like, you don't. You're not going to do that.
No, fuck no.
There's no way.
Yeah.
You'll do it now because it's easy. So I was listening. I was thinking like, dang, how did they do this? What movies did this come from? And then I listened closer. I'm like, it's actually a wind machine. The wind is a wind machine for sure.
Okay.
Which they would have had at CBS. They would have had a wind machine.
And what does a wind machine look like? What is this?
It's a it's a structure, usually like a bucket or something. It kind of looks like a cement mixer. But your muslin cloth is being cranked around this resonant thing.
Whoa.
And you record it, and it sounds exactly like howling wind.
Wow.
Because it's basically like cloth being dragged over a wood or metal structure. There's different tones you can make in a wind machine, but it's a thing that you crank. It looks like a hose reel.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
You know, like that kind of. It could be
yeah.
a small one like that, or it could be large, like a cement mixer, like a hand cranked cement mixer. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's got gears. So
Like
you can
a
turn it
bicycle.
like a bicycle, yeah. So put a little bit of effort into it,
never
and it
seen
really
one.
goes. Yeah.
That's cool.
So you think that I'm sure you're right. They had a wind machine, but then the other stuff is like
The other stuff is definitely synth.
definitely synth. I even suspect I couldn't get it out of my head once I heard that stuff being synths, the birds chirping in the song Legalize It. I'm like, is that a synth? That could be a synth. Somebody could have dialed in a little birdie tweeting synth
Yeah, a
patch.
little kind of sample and hold patch.
Yeah, something like that.
Especially with the synths that they had at that time that were available, especially in New York, that was definitely possible.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true because that stuff is not on the Jamaican mix. So those are like the stuff they do in the CBS mixes that like kind of they underline all the themes of what Tosh is doing and singing about, right? They whether it's like, phaser effects and reverb and more delays and making it all more like Wallace sound, like Brandon was talking about, but also all these like really neat sound effect things that usually I don't love, to be honest. I find it to be a little gimmicky sometimes, but on here it's like it's so good because it is a synth. They're not trying to like hide it either. It's cool. I love it.
Yeah, and I wonder, because again, it's not even talked about, and there's very little information on this, but it would be cool to see if it was like, was it Susan Ciani that did it?
Yeah.
Was it like, who was it?
Yeah, who did this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so crazy because I every time that I've listened to this, I've always imagined them making all these soundscapes in Jamaica. I realized that they
not
probably were done by a totally different crew. in
Yeah.
New York, huh?
Yeah. I have a feeling that they submitted. I have a feeling the rough timeline of this, and I'm told it's totally just like conjecture, but like the rough timeline of this was like, hey, Chris, here's my new record. Here's the Jamaican mixes. Here it is. And he's just like, no. And CBS hears it and they're like, no. And then somehow through him like kicking up a stink or Bob Marley maybe saying something, who knows? They go, okay, let's take it to CBS and let's sweeten it.
Well, so what happened was actually the record gets released and then banned.
Right. Yes.
And then
right.
gets insanely popular.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's like a black market thing.
Yeah.
Ha black market.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chris is like, well, there's just money on the table that I just can't. I gotta just put this out, but do it proper.
Do it proper, totally.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you're right. So it wasn't like Marley or somebody interceding.
People actually will buy it. So
Because
maybe
money.
make it presentable.
Yeah, because money.
Money,
Yeah. So you're right. You're totally right. The interjection in this getting out more widely was not somebody like Bob Marley or whoever. It was just that in the most Peter Tosh way, he just put it out and it got popular underground.
Yeah.
And then they took it and sweetened it and did everything that they did.
Yeah.
That we hear
The classic, no, was it good news? There's no better promotion than bad promotion, right?
Yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah. No such thing as bad press.
No
There
such
you go,
thing as bad press.
Yeah.
More we talk about, I wish I didn't like the CBS mixes as much as I do, but I do.
Well, look, here's the
They're
CBS.
awesome.
There's some. Let's just talk about the good parts of them, right?
Sure.
So yeah, this is a really well balanced record.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially
it's
with
like
the drums.
iconic. It's like iconic sounding. Like it's great.
It's amazing accompaniment to amazing, as I said before, singing, songwriting. It's just it really supports what he's doing. And there's a message to it.
Yep.
And you get this whole presentation that just feels like I can ingest this like a great meal,
Mm-hmm.
And then and the Jamaican mixes are like you really get the flavors here. You can hear everything. There's no political game that's happening.
Mm-mm.
The CBS mixes are very political. It's very much like
I agree.
here's our presentation.
Yeah, they're like, what do we do with
polished.
this? What do we
Yeah.
do with this? How do we sell it? How do we sell this? And they pulled out a lot of tricks to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the one thing I could say, and they'll go to Brandon. The one thing I can say about that technique is that it is done for this wider audience, right? Wider.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Whiter as well.
Whiter audience. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Right?
He just word
Brian
sound
with the word
empowered
sound
us.
empowered
Yeah, I
us.
did.
Brian just word sound empowered us in real
This
time.
record is mixed for a whiter audience, to reach a whiter audience.
But there is so much Jamaican in there that almost all of it gets through.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the performances are there's
The
no
raw
way that you can
materials,
mix those performances and they don't sound like they were recorded in Kingston.
Yeah, the raw materials are so Jamaican that it's like there's no hiding that or obfuscating it.
Dramatically Jamaican.
Yes, agree.
And which makes it awesome.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, and in comparison to a lot of Bob's later or even mid albums, not mid like mid, but mid like mid. The American production that's on this is it takes the form of mixing, and the only sounds added really are like some these synth textures and everything that we were talking about, and maybe
like effect,
maybe
like
a bit
the way
of guitar.
The way they like affect things, like they do all the phaser stuff feels like was a CBS decision, which was cool.
Yeah, effects. That's what I mean is mixing stuff. But Bob's had like half of the rhythm section that you're hearing is American and British dudes overdubbed.
Like session guys.
This was not recorded in Jamaica by Jamaicans, like that's not the case with this. It is altered, but
it's like in the mix, they were like, oh my God, how do we make this more like Bob somehow? And
that's probably
they used the tools
overtly
they were trying to do.
Totally.
And this is what they could do. It just happens to be really cool.
Yes.
There's some drum intros. What was that in? Oh, in Brand New Second Line, there's like a drum fill, a couple of drum fills that have like a wah on it, or is it a Mootron? What the hell is that? Some kind of envelope is going beep, beep, beep,
It's probably Mootron. To me, all the phaser stuff sounds very
kind of
Mootronish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This push and pull between the two mixes, like keep it 100% Jamaican or internationalize it for a wider audience.
That's what Whiteworst want to call
Whiteworst.
it. Internationalize it.
Internationalize it. But it's it reminds me of the whole dichotomy that we were talking about before, the Malcolm X and the MLK thing, and which is like, well, which approach is in the wrong? It's like, do we want to reach the people or do we not?
Right.
Like if that approach had never been taken with Bob Marley's music, with never been taken with Peter Tosh's music or Jimmy Cliff's music, like what would have would we be sitting here talking about Jamaican music right now?
Where would we be? I don't know.
Would anybody in the other parts of the world care about this conversation at all?
Yeah.
Outside of the 100 people who listen to this show. You know? Standout songs.
Yes.
Who's going to go? Well, we should have
Our guest go first.
We should have our guest go first. Yeah. So this is not favorite best, but basically runner up.
Yeah.
Right?
So standout songs for me. We haven't talked about Catchy Shooby, right?
Yes.
Because
Let's do
it's great.
It's so
all
good.
right. This is obviously a novelty song.
Yeah.
But it's in that, it's kind of a Slack song too, which I'm a huge fan of.
Tell the people what Slack
veiled.
means.
Yeah. In what way is it a Slack song?
Well, it's definitely like a sexual thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's Slack is just like, it's the dirty songs.
Right.
Dirty.
Yeah. The dirty
X-rated.
stuff. Yeah. The nasty bits. Yeah.
I don't know if you're picking it sort of ironically. I love the Catchy Shooby. I think it's great. Yeah, it's awesome.
Everybody loves this song.
Yeah.
I mean, but your mama don't.
No.
And your papa don't. So,
yeah.
But also in America, your mom and your papa don't know what Catchy Shooby means.
Yeah. It's also the most amazing Yelp review.
Okay.
Right?
Explain.
Just read it. If you read the lyrics as a Yelp review, it's really funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's can we get
Come
the Catchy
make we play some Catchy Shooby.
Yeah.
And when me shooby, you feel catchy. And when you catchy, don't make it drop, because if it drop, it will pop.
Yep.
And if it pop, no one can mend it, because if they mend it, you can easily bend it.
You could easily bend it.
Interesting. Interesting.
Any of those could be a line from a Yelp review. It's just
Of like a for a good time call 555
exactly.
type thing.
Yeah.
555 Catchy Shooby.
Yeah.
So my question about Catchy Shooby. So it seems like, so it definitely is a sexual situation that this is referring to.
Mm.
Yeah.
What I had always heard is that it's specifically Catchy Shooby means, when you the climaxing occurs on your partner's face. Specifically.
Is that what we're talking about?
Is that true?
I don't
Or is
think
that
so.
not true? Is this simply coitus that we're discussing here?
This is such a good pick, by the way.
Yeah.
We need to get to the bottom of this. But
Okay.
I wish we had a Jamaican person with us here.
Is that what it is? Is it the bottom of it? Is that what it is?
Oh, dang.
Because of the lyric, when you're catchy, don't make it drop.
Okay.
like don't let it fall.
It could mean anything.
So I always heard catchy as being horny.
Okay.
That's
Oh, okay.
that's the interpretation that when I hear it spoken, that's what I hear.
Brandon's just disgusting.
Okay.
Don't
Yeah.
pay any attention to him, Brian. He's just
And
filthy.
and Shuby is the actual doing it part.
Okay.
Hey, I didn't come up with this interpretation.
Yeah.
This is just what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I heard some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a restaurant in New York City, Catchy Shuby, which is kind of like, I don't know if I want to eat there.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I could afford to eat there.
It's true. It's true.
But yeah.
Wow.
I'm seeing on the onlines that it's also like that it's like a euphemism because this is also like a nickname for a particular form of cricket, the sport cricket to play. So it's sort of like a getting to third base type of a euphemism, like, a sports thing. Like, hey, play some catchy shooby, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Interesting. Frankly, as a former Mormon church boy, I just want to go la 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 la. I'm not allowed to talk about this or hear this smut.
I just need to go to a
go to-
California reggae festival. I can't
La, la,
handle
la.
this negativity that you guys are surrounding me with.
Yeah.
I need to go
Well,
get some good vibes in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Soaking.
That is a new phenomenon in my culture. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
I
before.
believe. I don't think that I was way after my time.
Your culture is not our Halloween costume.
Yeah, exactly.
Catchy soaking.
come make me play some catchy soaking.
Oh my God! Holy
Yes.
shit!
So yeah, Catchy Shuby is definitely my standout, and I mean,
Okay.
because I'm always gonna go like I'm the guy that gets the synthesizer and goes straight to the weird
Sure.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm
And the synth
I'm
on this
just-
is so good. It's
really good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very Brian.
So
synth
70s.
stuff.
The
Yeah,
next
that's
one
a
would
Brian.
be Burial.
Okay.
Also, the only one that has horns on it,
Mm.
but not specifically the Burial that we've heard. The Burial dub on the special
I
release.
did.
one.
I barely listened to this, and it's
Yeah.
so good. It is. You're so right.
It's super spooky.
So good.
Yeah.
It is. It's so stripped down that I almost mistook it for like a new album came on like while I was listening to it or something like that. I was like, "What is this?" Like, whoa.
I gotta check it out. I haven't.
Yeah.
And unknown who did the dub.
Right. I could be wrong on this, but I think when they put out the Legacy edition, it's like they were like they like discovered those dub plates after they didn't know where they had been or they were like new to them or something like that. Like
Okay.
like they had been I don't know if they were new for that release or not, or if maybe they came out way back in the day, but like hadn't been re-released in a long time or something like that. But like, man, those are cool. I listen to those dub plates too. They are fucking rad. Like
Then the next one is actually the Catchy Shuby version because the vocals are gone and it's just the background vocals and you can really hear Bunny Wailer in there.
oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And then I would just say overall, just like the use of synths in this record is really kind of interesting and refreshing in a way.
I think it's very like forward looking. Like it's like
Yeah.
he could like see it coming. You know what I mean? Like in like 5 years, like everybody was gonna do shit like this, and he's just gonna do it now. Like
Yeah.
It's amazing how even after spending like a week and a half listening to this, that didn't stand out to me as a synth record.
it is. There's tons of good synth on this. It's wild.
Because from this time period, whenever the album that always comes to my mind with the synths in this stuff is 27's Clash.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because this album came out before 27's Clash.
Really? Yeah. I guess
think.
You're right, huh? No. Yeah. This is 76.
Yeah, 76. That would
Yeah.
have come out in 77.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
right. I like that Brian's standout songs are from the bonus discs. I love that. I'm gonna start doing
Yeah.
that. I'm
Well,
gonna start doing that too.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
I don't know. Is that cheating?
No, it's not.
Somehow,
it's not
yeah.
cheating. There's no,
No,
rules,
no,
Brian. No one cares.
Yeah, no one cares.
There's
No one's
100
listening.
people.
Yeah.
100 people.
Anyway, so back to you guys. What were your catchy shooby songs?
Yeah, Brandon, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. All right. Let me scroll down. My standout is Why Must I Cry?
It's a good standout.
Nice one.
It's a really good song. This one, just like every single listen through that I did, when after the intro, when the beat drops and the band kicks in to the feel of the song, literally every time out loud, I'm like, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
god damn, the band is on fire in this song, and I've noticed in all my years of enjoying reggae that always is like the most critical thing for me to enjoy a song of reggae. I gotta love what the band is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the feel, the pocket, the everything. You know, like no matter how good of a vocal performance or whatever else is going on, like if there's some broke ass, busted ass stuff being played by the band, I don't really enjoy listening to it. So this song, it's really interesting too, because this is 76, which is like early days of the roots reggae thing. I don't know, I guess like 75 is really kind of the early days of it, but it's still to the point where the drummer, whichever drummer this is, if this is Santa or Carly Barrett, I'm not sure, but he's playing a rock steady drum pattern, you know, which is from 8 years before this. He's playing a 1968 drum pattern in here, while the rest of the band is playing reggae.
That's a fun thing about this album too, is the way that he calls back to that earlier era that he was like a part of.
History.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
the man knows his history. Yeah.
Well, he was part of it.
And it's his own history, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
he's not doing like a callback. He's just like playing the shit that he plays. Like it's like what he does, you know?
Yeah. And it's a great vocal performance. It's a great song. I love this song.
Also, I noticed, it's definitely the most pop song on here, like as far as structure. And the other thing I love about it is the grumbly synth that's in there. There's like a long held note, like diamonds, you know, grumbly synth that goes through it. That's sort of like what it would have been, like replacing like a vocal harmony or something.
Right.
It's like,
oh, that's awesome.
Which like perfectly accompanies his voice.
Wow.
Yeah. Man, I got to go back in. I didn't even
check it.
In all my listens, I didn't even notice that.
There's a grumbly one in there.
And then I'm pretty sure that the just love, that part is added after the Jamaican mix, right? That I don't think that part is in the Jamaican mix.
I have to listen again.
Unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, not sure.
But yeah, that lends to the poppiness of it. And this one is this the one co-written with Bob Marley?
There's a couple, yeah.
Why Must I Cry was Marley.
Yeah, Tosh, Marley. Till Your Well One's Dry is Bunny and Tosh.
And Burial.
And Burial is Bunny and Tosh, yeah.
So, that's my...
Good standout.
Yep.
I would have to say, for me, my standout is tied between What You Gonna Do and Brand New Secondhand. As a huge fan of interpersonal band drama, I gotta tip my hat to Brand New Secondhand. Because I think it's a song that did kind of exist from back in the earlier version of the Wailers, like the Lee Perry version of the Wailers. Am I wrong about that? I think it's like an older song. But the way it's used on this is to directly be like, fuck you, Bob, which is just fun. I love it.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff.
The diss track.
Yeah, it's a diss track.
diss track.
Absolutely.
Which
it's
definitely makes it a Lee Perry situation. The
that
king of
too.
the diss tracks.
It's the how do you sleep of of Legalize It, which I think is awesome. Yeah, and what you gonna do as well, kind of tied. I just like how this one is really fun. It's like once we get into this song, it's like the album gets a little less heavy and more just kind of fun and upbeat and I don't know. It's just a fun, very Jamaican tune that I really like.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about what you're gonna do?
Yeah. So my two, I have kind of two standouts that are tied. Those two, I just love them. Those are like two of my favorites.
Yeah, what you're gonna do for me was in the if I had two standouts, that was gonna be the other one. This was in contention for best song for me. I didn't end up picking it, but dude, so the way that it has those very Caribbean chords, that is the similar sort of thing that he does in Don't Blame the Youth. Can't blame the youth. You know, like a Cherry O Baby type of a thing that Peter Tosh would do.
Yep.
You know, it's like very like 50s sort of like
It is
calypso-y. Like calypso-based chord shapes and stuff that he would bring in.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is like pre-reggae kind of influence almost. Like,
it's homage to the heritage of Caribbean music. That's from even before ska, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And man, the lyrics are so fucking good. I love how. So the song is essentially a portrayal of like the effects of the Babylon system, you know, the persecution, the keeping people poor, that like we can see the effects that it has on people on the first the first level, the most apparent people, you know, all the people who end up getting arrested, all the people who end up spending all this time in jail, all the people who end up getting brutalized, all the people who don't have enough to eat and all this stuff. But this song is about, you know, the members of these people's family.
Right.
Not even the people who are directly affected by the persecution, but their loved ones. You know, that guy's mom.
Right.
How must she feel? That guy's wife. How must she feel? What is she supposed to do? You know? Oh, mama, what you gonna do? You know, like your husband was arrested and your son could have just as easily been arrested at the same go round. So like there she is. She's at home. What is she supposed to do? How is she supposed to feel about this? You know, like it's just it's a more like three-dimensional kind of question, societal question to pose, you know, which is something that has become very real for me in my time living in some of the neighborhoods that I've lived in LA, where you sort of, when you live there, you sort of understand like, you know, actually only like 1% of the people who live here are in gangs.
Yeah.
And then everybody else deals with the
repercussions
impact,
of that.
with the repercussions and the ways that this touches and affects and makes their life worse.
Yeah.
And they are non-affiliated.
Right.
And the whole greater system like affects them just as much.
Yeah. The whole community
as anybody else.
An innocent bystander. Yeah.
Yeah. And think about it, it's the same way. Like if you think about it from the other side, like the gangs, the 1% gang that is oppressing us.
Right.
As
Yeah,
a
that's
whole.
true.
You know, it's like
the other 1%.
Taking our money.
That's true.
And polluting the world with it.
Yep.
Like
ruining everything.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and every person who gets taken out by that has got innocent bystander family members that friends and loved ones and people who care about them, who are affected by the fact that that person just got taken out. You know, it's
let's play favorite best now. Should we go
favorite best?
So Brian, favorite does not mean you think it's the very best song on the album.
And they could be the same.
They could be the same. And just because you think it's the best song, that doesn't mean it's like your favorite that you want to play and listen to all the time, right?
The example that I always use is my favorite Tarantino movie is The Hateful Eight, but the best one is Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So I'll go with favorite is going to be No Sympathy,
Nice.
just because the groove is so weird.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it is like he is laying back, and in his guitar playing and in his vocal delivery, he'll be like late by like a whole eighth note sometimes.
Yeah.
That is true.
He just
It is
lays
really
back.
weird groove.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
The
Dun
dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. It's very unique.
And
Yeah.
then the clav in the hole there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's super unique from a groove perspective. You're totally right. Like there's
Yeah.
kind of not much else out there like that song.
Yeah,
This
and
is-
it's just such a great thing of his personality too. Like this sort of like obtuse groove that kind, is, but then it makes musical sense,
Yeah.
but it's really like, I like to listen to records when you can hear somebody actually expressing themselves, with their whole being. And and that expression gets everywhere into all the cracks, it just finds.
And like the mix of No Sympathy is cool because it's kind of minimal, like at least the instrumentation wise. Like everything's kind of out of his way as a vocalist, and you can really, it's like he's like preaching like on a soapbox or something, like in the mix. Like you really get the full breadth of his like personality is like on showcase here, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And the Jamaican mix. So
Yeah, I should say I'm speaking of the CBS mix.
The
when I say
CBS
that.
mix, yeah.
Because the Jamaican mix is probably
The Jamaican
totally
mix has a different rhythm.
Whoa.
Like it's like
and his vocal is like 9 dB on top of everything
that,
else. It
I know
is so
exactly
much
what
hotter
you're talking about. It's so hot
than
yeah,
everything.
right.
So the lateness, right? How he's playing with the rhythm is so much more apparent.
Yeah.
Because when the voice is that hot, you need him to be on even
Yeah.
more, but he's not. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's all feel, it's all intentional, and it works. It
does work.
It never
It's really
sounds like a
cool.
mistake.
Yeah, this is one of
It's just
the
the
tracks where I
performance.
think that the CBS version was actually like a clear upgrade, but the Jamaican one is still so cool, and it's so Jamaican, so it's hard to really hate on it at all. But
it's definitely they fixed some things that an engineer would fix.
sure, yeah,
Rather than a song interpreter would fix.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's some
great,
technical stuff that's done.
great favorite, Brian. What do you think is the best song on Legalize It though?
I would say "Till Your Well Runs Dry."
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
Yep. That is
I didn't want to step on anyone else's toes, but
no, it's all
No,
good.
no.
it's a good one.
Yeah. If we're gonna all go next, because if we're gonna talk about that, my favorite is "Till Your Well Runs Dry."
Okay, nice.
So Brian's best is my favorite. I think is "Till Your Till Your Well Runs Dry."
Yeah.
I can't say that. I mean we could both talk about it, Brian. I love that's like a oh no, that's a Bunny and Peter song,
It's a
which
Bunny
is
one.
crazy
Bunny
because
and Peter.
that just it feels like a song that is like older than time. It feels like a like a traditional or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it
really does.
It feels like something that like, and this again ties into like why I feel like Tosh was so beloved by like the wider kind of rock, like white rock, like English community, like the Claptons and the Keith Richards and stuff, is because the way he writes, it's like these sound like bluesy like kind of pre rock and roll types of songs, like Till Your Well Runs Dry. It's just like it's a classic, like kind of pre rock sentiment, subject matter. Like
it's like a folk thing.
It's like a folk thing. Yeah,
you
it's
know,
just cool.
like the way that like Toots got in touch with American music sort of at a different point than it seemed like a lot of the rest of the Jamaican artists, you know,
Totally.
like kind of more in that folky Bob Dylan-y sort
Totally.
of place. And this one is like that.
Yeah, this one is big time like that. So, okay, if I'm going to go if I'm up to bat, my best, again, I'm the low-hanging fruit guy in this episode, and I'm fine with that. But the best is Legalize It to me. It's
Okay.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
It's
It's
awesome.
definitely a contender for me too.
It's iconic. It's classic.
the fucking intro.
Yeah.
Like how we talk about on the show often too, talking about the quality, what makes a good first track of an album.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fucking all-timer.
Yeah.
Track one.
Yeah. And like
That
the fact
intro,
that we
Legalize.
have the two versions now on the Legacy Edition, or three versions really. This one is like my favorite like comparison point to really, if you really want to dig into like the way they sweetened the original Jamaican mixes and stuff, or the ways they changed it. The changes on Legalize It are dramatic. Like they in the Jamaican mix, it's like the piano is like super up front and everything's dry. Everything's dry. And you hear every instrumentation. You hear the hi-hat
right.
in the Jamaican mix.
Yeah.
Whereas
The way they mix it in CBS, you can't even
you can't
hear
any
the articulation
in the cymbals or drums. There's nothing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the CBS mix, it's so cool in its own way because it's this murky, hazy, like weedy, like it's like they nailed the brief. Like they just did.
All the guitars and the keyboard instruments blend together.
Yeah.
To the point where you can't tell like the don't ba-dee-na, don't ba-dee-na. It just sounds like one
A
part
blend.
being played by this whole like the big pump organ something. But when you hear the Jamaican mix, you can hear the piano's doing the da-dum, and then the guitar is da-dee-na, you know, and it demystifies this like unreal. Wait, what's the word?
It's like surreal. It's like a surreal treatment of the song.
It's like the audio form of movie magic, you know.
Totally.
Where in a film they'll make something look that the colors are brighter than they really could be, or whatever.
It's like saturated or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this it's like
that.
they almost desaturate some things and saturate other things. Like they saturate, I keep going back to it, but like the way they slam the i3s through the Mutron phaser in this is just so
there's
cool.
a lot of slamming that goes on.
So much slam.
Yeah, there's a lot of slamming.
Yeah.
It's a slam jam.
Yeah.
Shuby.
Shuby style. Yeah. I don't know. I think just for sheer iconicness and like tying into like the album cover, which is just like one of the best album covers of all time. Like
It's the complete package.
it's so good. Yeah. So gotta go Legalize It for best.
The hi-hat.
Mhm.
Very just Santa plays the hi-hat like no one ever has.
Mhm.
Like he's known for, the Flyers thing, but like his hi-hat playing is fantastic, and it was captured, I think, the best. I think it's a great reference for hi-hat for reggae.
I do too. Yeah.
I wouldn't go any lower. I wouldn't go any higher.
Yeah.
But you could go lower or higher, but it's hi-hat compared to vocal, compared to snare, bass, like it's in the perfect place.
Yeah.
Talk about the balance in the mix.
The
Where to
balance,
put it. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, and it is like textbook too. Like it's like textbook how you play one of these like kind of rolling like hi-hat grooves. It's just so sick.
And it's not too loud and not too soft, so you can hear actually everything that he's doing.
Yeah.
That's right. And also to
Yeah.
notice how dark
the
of a
hi-hat
timbre
is.
the hi-hat has.
Super
It's not
dark.
all high
Yeah.
frequencies.
Yeah. It's the only way to push it that
counterintuitive.
high, I think, that loud, like where you can really hear all the articulation. Like you kind of have to roll off the top somehow, however they did it.
Well, it's way different than the channel 1 sound, which is like hi-hat is just sounds
crisp. Yeah, totally different.
It's hi-hat and rest of band.
yeah, exactly. Okay, Brandon.
All right.
Let's get Brandon's favorite best, and then we'll let our guests go.
For me, favorite and best are both the same.
Nice.
And it's Burial.
Nice.
That is, it has always been my favorite song on this album. And I originally was like, no, best is Legalize It. But no, after all, no, it's Burial, man. The chord shape is so unique. When has there...
Yeah.
When does anybody go from 1 to 6 in roots reggae? Find me one example, please.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one, and it's Burial.
Yeah.
And the lyrics, man, it's fucking ridiculous. There's such good lyrics, and it's so in the patois. Doing my best to translate what it means is like they want me to go to their funeral because they say that they're the general. Right. So basically it's a refusal to go to war. The song is about being a conscientious objector to war.
This is what I mean. This album is like sneaky heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the whole thing is like basically equating that you want me to go fight in a war is you want me to go to your funeral. And it's like, no, Rastas don't go. Rastas don't die for another man. Rastas don't die for anybody.
Yeah.
Let the dead bury the dead. I'm a
Do you
living
think
man.
this-
I've got work to do.
Do you think he's singing this to people that are thinking about joining the army or something, or like joining the police force,
I'm
or
sure
joining
he's- right,
Babylon
yeah.
in
I'm
some
sure
way?
he's trying to
Yeah.
get that into people's head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because the police was militarized, right? Like there's little difference between the military and the police in this time, and it's just a declaration that like Rastas do not participate in that.
Yeah.
Rastas do not participate in combat, in the fighting.
Yeah.
And my favorite line on the entire freaking album, the rich man's heaven is the poor man's hell.
Mm.
Like the only way that this world where this wealthy enjoyment can even exist for people, the only way that that's possible is by doing something that involves the using of other people,
Right.
and the sacrifice of other people's comfort.
Yeah.
It's the song is fucking mad,
This is
mad heavy, mad
actually a really great pick for favorite or
That
best.
was awesome.
This is a good pick, Brandon.
Guys, I got to jump.
All right, Bri.
Brian,
We love
thank
you.
you so
So
much,
good to
man.
see
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll catch
Thank
up
you for being
soon.
here.
But
We
this
will.
was super fun.
This is a good one. This is
Oh
a
my
great
gosh.
job. We'll have you
Yeah.
back for Bunny for sure.
Awesome.
Whenever we do that.
Yeah.
Okay, friends.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Safe
Thanks,
travels.
Brian.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Final thoughts. Oh, do you have any hot take at all?
Not really. No.
Me neither. Isn't
No,
that
this is
interesting?
just a good one. It's just
I
a
think
good.
this is the first time neither one of us has any spicy.
What even would it be? Like
Take to
that I
take on
like
Peter
this more
Tosh.
than Bob Marley? That's
Ooh, that actually would be a hot take. Is that?
that kind of is. That's
Oh,
I
We have hot take.
a hot
We
take.
have one.
Hot take
have
is I do prefer Legalize It and Equal Rights to like the best
Okay.
post Wailers Marley stuff. Like I would rather put this on or equal rights over, Kaya and Exodus or, one of those.
Right. Even Legend.
Definitely legend. Definitely legend. Legend does not count, in my opinion. That is not an album. That is not an album.
The greatest album ever made, Legend.
Yeah.
Bob Marley's Legend.
How about you?
Oh,
I'm
man.
curious. Do you have any hot takes?
I really don't. I was thinking about it. I was trying to find one. I don't know. The closest thing is probably just everything that I was talking about. How Peter Tosh is Tommy Wiseau. Peter Tosh is just like, all right, dude.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even in his later albums, man. Here, some songs in particular, like on Wanted, Dread, and Alive, which is another one of my favorite.
So good.
Tosh albums. That song, I mean, that album is fucking incredible. Coming in Hot, Reggae My Lightest,
Reggae My Lightest is great.
which we reference on our new album coming out
That's
this year.
true. That's true. Which we have to talk about that.
We do. But two songs. One is called Guide Me From My Friends, which is a prayer to God to please save me from my goddamn friends
Relatable.
who are so evil and they're going to try to hurt me and shit.
Relatable. Save Me From My Podcast Host is the song it's in the bonus tracks.
And the song That's What They Will Do, which the other line is, the people who are your best friends, who call themselves your best friends, that's what they will do. They'll betray you. It's all over his work, dude. They not
betray
just,
me.
Everybody betray me.
Everybody
I'm fed up with this world. Seriously.
Yeah. You know what Peter Tosh didn't do though? He didn't record the album simultaneously 2 different ways at the same time to
Both on tape and on digital.
and on digital. Yeah, he didn't do that.
Yeah, you're tearing me apart, Lisa.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I think that's the closest thing I have to a hot take is he just needs to chill out and he just needs to
chill out, yeah.
You need to go to therapy, dude. Like, goddamn,
probably.
relax.
Probably.
Who hurt you?
Yeah.
I mean, probably being abandoned by his parents, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. I think we should just say, dub clap for our guest, Brian Wallace.
Yes, Brian Wallace. Dub clap.
Holy crap. Have to give it up for Brian all the time. If you're new here, Brian was our band teacher in high school. He taught us kind of everything we know about reggae. So
whether we wanted to know it or not.
It's true. I kind of feel like Brian should be our perennial Reggae Summer guest one every summer. That's kind of how I feel about it because it all started from Brian. So, but yeah, to kind of wrap up and talk about some other news, we've been kind of talking about lately. We've been trying to kind of fund our next album that we are trying to get pressed. And I am very excited to announce that we did get the funding. Our new album of Halloween music, that's right, is coming out this fall. We secured the money that we need to secure kind of by hilarious ways, but we got it.
And also by contributions from our subscribers and patrons as well.
That's true. It is mainly from you guys.
Thank you.
We had the last little bit that we needed came through in a really wild way. But yeah, 90% of it, I would say, was paid for by our patrons and our subscribers on Bandcamp and supporters, people that pay for our music and buy our vinyl. We're doing it in conjunction with Escape Hatch Records like we always do. So they have helped us out tremendously to get this thing past the finish line. And also, I can't not bury the lead here. We also secured the money to repress the Christmas album. So this year...
I got to get the button out again.
Yeah, you do. So this year we've got a brand new Halloween album. Whoa. I mean, it's good news. We've got a new Halloween album coming out that is like, there's so many fucking bells and whistles to this Halloween album. I can't wait till we start actually talking about it, but I don't think we should quite announce what it is yet. And then also we're getting a repressing of the Christmas album. So there's going to be more Christmas vinyl coming your way and some brand new Black Market Dub Halloween vinyl as well. So super exciting. But I think before I totally wrap this up and say go to our Bandcamp and Patreon, which you should do anyway, Brandon, it's Reggae Summer. we're talking about reggae right now. What is next? I guess it's me. I'm next.
Yeah,
huh?
it's your pick for the next pick.
So, the next album that we're going to do on Reggae Summer is by a legendary artist who recently passed away. Gosh, pretty recently, I feel like. Like it was like last year or something. You would know him by the film.
That's right.
The film.
Less than a year ago.
Less than a year ago, he passed. You would know him famously by his film, The Harder They Come, although we're not talking about the soundtrack. We're talking about Jimmy Cliff and his self-titled album called Jimmy Cliff that has just a slew of classic Jimmy Cliff songs. And it is also kind of a... so far in Reggae Summer, it will be kind of an outlier in that it is, it was kind of, it's not very Rastafarian really. It's kind of not the
secular.
Yeah, it is much more secular. So that is not kind of the overarching theme of the album. It's very interesting, and I'm excited to talk about it in conjunction and like in comparison to like Bob Marley, because it's an album by a guy who is either intentionally so or being kind of pushed in the direction of like crossing over into like a wider audience. But the way he does it musically is really different from Bob Marley, and it's really interesting. So yeah, Jimmy Cliff also kind of in his own little corner too, like just like I don't feel like had as many like kind of crossovers with like a lot of the same people that we tend to talk about on the show as well. So super interesting, very excited to talk about Jimmy Cliff's self-titled album. I believe it's from like 69, I think.
Yes,
from
so 69. This is also
the oldest.
Yep, the oldest one. This is the first one that we're going to talk about that's not from the 70s or the 80s, and even more specifically the late 70s or the 80s.
Right, yeah.
This album also has been released under the title Wonderful World, Beautiful People as well.
Yeah, that's good to note, because that's the version of it I have on vinyl.
Listen to it.
That's the version I have. It's called Wonderful World, Beautiful People. So yeah.
So it's either that or it's called Jimmy Cliff.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is gonna be great, man. Because this is sort of at the beginning of this conversation. We talked about how Peter Tosh is one of the people.
Yes.
That
could be number one.
Well, that could be number two behind Bob.
Sure. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, Bob's number one. Who's number two? There's probably, you could pick from probably like three people, maybe four, to answer that. And
Jimmy's one of them.
Jimmy is probably the other main one that I was thinking of when I said that. Yeah,
agree. So exciting! That's going to be very fun. So Reggae Summer continues. Next episode with Jimmy Cliff.
We'll have some things to talk about other than Rasta.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, we are a band. We are a Black Market Dub. Brandon and I have been making music together for years and years now. You can find all of our music that includes Brian Wallace, who was just on this amazing episode of this show. Brian is on so much of our music, and Brian
blowing on that saxophone.
Brian, his pedigree as a musician and saxophonist and audio engineer and mastering engineer is just... The guy is a legend, and we're so lucky that we had him on the show, and we're even luckier that we've had him on so much of our music. So go to our Bandcamp page, blackmarketdub.bandcamp.com. Get your wallets ready, because it's going to be an expensive fall and winter. Get ready to pony up for some vinyl. It's coming. I'm like so pumped. Also, if you want ad-free versions of this show, patreon.com/blackmarketdub. We hang out over there, and it's an easy way to chat with us and get a hold of us as well. Also, make sure you go to escapepatchrecords.com. Escape Patch Records is kind of our label, best friends, employers, everything, all of the above. It's a big, awesome family with Escape Patch that we have. So go to escapepatchrecords.com. It's like tons of amazing, like exclusive vinyl from like a bunch of our friends, and me and Brandon play on a lot of it, and a lot of our music is out on the label. So all spearheaded by the great John Roy. So go over there and check that out, and support everything we're doing. If you support Escape Patch, you're supporting us directly. So escapepatchrecords.com. With that, Brandon.
Yes.
Do you have any words, sounds, or powers for us?
Nice. I do. All right, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. We love you. And remember, legalize it, and I will advertise it. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
We